Coming back up to the stage is Omar Oakes, Editor-in-Chief of the Media Leader. I will let Omar make the introductions to his panel, but this is how we bring creativity and media back together. So please welcome Omar and his panel up to the stage.
Well done. Thank you so much for returning to part 2 of the session on creativity media coming back together, question mark. So we've got Seb from Hewlett-Packard, Olya from Heineken, and Sally Withers from Craft Media.
Not a client. You said a client panel.
Well, I was just going to preface, I was just going to introduce you by saying, yeah, so Craft Media, explain for the benefit of our audience, you're not a typical agency. What do you do? Explain.
Our speciality is comm strategy, so proper comm strategy, taking a holistic view of what all comms, all channels need to do, and then briefing creative media, PR, on-pack, whatever. So making sure that there's a really clear brief for everyone to work against.
So I think it's fair to say the big takeaway from the last panel we have with the 2 agencies, creative and media, is that it's really up to the marketer to make the agencies deliver creative plus media in any way that you want it. Before I ask for the advertiser's view on that, Sally, what did you think of that?
So, I mean, I suppose one of the things, we started Craft mainly because we could see advertisers getting overwhelmed by multiple strategies. So brief goes out, and actually you then get an advertising strategy, a brand strategy, a media strategy, a PR strategy. And really what you need is something that glues everything together, that brings everything together under with one KPI, so we all know what direction we're heading in. And we talk a lot about, if you've ever watched 5-year-olds play football, they all tend to chase the ball. What we want to do is spread our players out on the pitch, make sure they've all got a role. We're all kicking towards the same goal, but we know what our position is on the pitch, right? And so what Craft does is help advertisers organise their team to get the best work possible out of them.
Olya from Heineken, that sounds great what Sally just said. How come you can't do it yourself?
Well, that's a great question, huh? How come we're not doing this? Well, first of all, I think that we haven't talked about comm strategy for a while. We've been talking a lot about...
Sorry, we as in the industry or we
as an industry? Yeah. I think so, yeah. I mean, look, I've spent in agencies zillions of years. 3 years ago, I moved to client side. And I have to admit, on the very few accounts, you will talk about comm strategy. And in the very few cases, you're going to have clients who will basically tell you, I would like you to work with my BTL team as well, yeah? And the reality is that John in Manchester doesn't give a damn whether he saw a TV ad of Heineken beer or sees a screen in Tesco or ad on Instagram. He just sees Heineken beer, yeah? And we don't think about it often because when you're in media agency, your remit is media. You're in creative, your remit is creative. So I 100% agree with Sally. We need to have that glue, that connector, but at the same time, where should it sit? Like for me, it's a big question. I mean, Sally has opened an agency to fit the gap, which is great, but then I'm questioning it as well because I don't know what's the right model, whether we should have that type of talent sitting in our teams within the business because they're going to be closer to business. And because we need to grow capabilities, or should we hire someone to do that job? But we definitely need that right now because we're used to it. Historically, we are still very siloed. Even as the businesses, I don't know how many businesses in this world actually have integrated brand and trade teams. That's another big question. I mean, probably not a lot. And sometimes those teams have different KPIs as well. And that doesn't help. So you can't really have a consolidated campaign if your trade team is briefed separately, have different KPIs, and also their deadlines to produce creative work are 6 months earlier than the deadlines of your above-the-line campaign. So all of that, I think...
It's complicated.
It's complicated, but that answers the question to why, to some extent, we aren't doing it. But it's not an excuse not to do that.
Sebastien, what about HP, Hewlett-Packard, I mean, is anyone on your marketing team doing comm strategy?
No, that's a great question. I think, I agree with my two panelists here. I think, even before we start talking media briefs or creative briefs, okay, let's take it all the way back to what is the art of creative media planning or comms planning, I think, here that we're talking about. So at HP, the way we're looking at it, it's obviously we've got an in-house team, both creative and media. So it's a little bit different compared to most advertisers here, which is actually quite interesting. So it's working actually hand in hand and deciding, okay, which direction we're gonna go in. And that's both from the media perspective, so tactics, but also creative. So it's getting everyone around the same table. I think Amy from this morning from Boots mentioned this. I actually get just everyone in the room and say, right, this is a comm strategy, back to Sally's point. And then, okay, so from a media tactics standpoint, we want to do A, B, and C. Creative team, can you work that into your storyline? So at least we get the right formats, because I think everyone in the industry can agree that at some point in their career, they've got the creative assets and they're like, it's not the right format. So.
I think that's too late, though. Sorry, just to disagree a bit. I kind of feel like there's a moment, after you've done your comm strat, we're all aligned, we all know we're going right, then you need a moment where your creative and your media agencies can chew the fat, right? And that's not...
When's that supposed to happen?
That has to happen at the beginning, right? Brief lands. You need to, and it takes a time. It's not something that can be done in a 30 minutes Teams call. This is two separate teams talking together properly, debating ideas, debating directions that you could go in. And then you need to be able to take an idea and work with your media agency to blow it out. What happens too frequently is that we've seen creative agencies come with an ad. Here is the ad. Can you do a creative media plan to land this in the world? And it's like, you've given me a telly ad, right? The best I can do is a really brilliant AV plan. But if you come to me earlier in the process with an idea, then I can help you make that bigger and better and more famous, to Laura's point. But don't leave it until you've got an ad that the client loves. Let's have that conversation before any of us have put pen to paper, any of us have actually started thinking about.
But I think in addition to that, you can't have just creative and media. You have to have creative, media, BTL. If
Yes.
needed, you have experiential agency. If needed, you have your PR agency. The trick is that exactly if you don't have comm strategy, there's people start fighting.
Yeah.
And that's not what we want. So how to motivate all the stakeholders on the agency side to collaborate, that's question number one. And I think the only way to do that is consistent KPIs. If we can have PRIPs that are consistent for all agencies, that are focused not just on productivity and how much media agency is saving money versus how good is the one, I don't know, as some sort of test that creative agencies' assets run by, but instead you try and find business KPIs that everyone, or brand KPIs that everyone is prepped on. I think that's the starting point because they're all going to be interested. The second, I think, this is why my question is around where the comm strategy should sit in terms of the talent. How much, if you have an external person who orchestrated, really makes a difference versus someone within the business? Because again, we still know there is like the client side, orchestrating agencies versus external agency. Like if it's an agency, there is dynamics always. So I think that's another piece. Shouldn't we have a resource potentially who does the job and connects everybody together earlier in motivated way?
And is that something that ultimately a chief marketing officer or marketing director should do, or should it be someone else?
It's a bit of a executional job for marketing director, I think, to be honest. I think marketing director needs to drive culture of collaboration. That's the job. Collaborate, move towards the same objective, while, for my opinion, should be someone in the team, in marketing department, who basically becomes that glue.
And also, maybe you disagree. Do you agree that creative and media should be offered as one integrated thing? Or maybe it's a good thing that you have different people with different specialisms who bring something to the table?
Debate is great. I mean,
Or does it depend?
I'll kick this one off. So I think I'm going to draw it all the way back to, okay, we as humans are creative people by nature. I mean, painters, sculptors, musicians, right? And then obviously media and creative folk. Now, taking that to kind of the conversation that we have right now, we know that, okay, creatives are very good at creating. Ideation, creatives. Media, we know the tactics, we work with our partners, we work with the platforms, we know the detail. And then obviously you get data scientists, the insights people who are, data first party data, they know what's going on in the back. And back to Olya's point on looking at, okay, how do the trade teams work? Can we bring sales data into the funnel? So you have all these individual groups working, doing the best they can with what they have. But what we're missing always is either a project manager or your comms planning strategists, if you want to call them that way, to bring everyone together and everyone to go in the same direction so that you get data science, funneling all the media tactics and creative with first-party data insights. You know what creatives that you need to build because you know which platforms you're going to go on. And then you have the creative idea where everyone is aligned and going towards.
And I think to that, and then it doesn't matter whether they sit in one agency or not.
Exactly.
Like we were at WFA event a few weeks ago, and I see a lot of businesses moving also from media to consumer experiences, so connected consumer connections, because we can't just, like, even ourselves as a businesses, we should stop probably thinking about, here is your media, here is your trade marketing, here is like your comms manager in brand team, yeah? That doesn't enable us to create one experience for our consumer through the line. So maybe it should start from us, well, by actually organizing ourselves, but it's not an easy task for like big businesses. It's almost impossible task, so we have to find other ways to connect. Maybe it is through KPIs, and maybe it is through those people. Like my big debate right now, because we are also looking at, we have so many structures. We have actually in-house buying and planning that work in some markets. We have some regional in-house buying and planning for digital. Then we have some global hubs that are doing it for global brands. So we have gazillions of structures as a business that we are testing. But my big question now is, if I want to create a connected consumer experience, who do I need? I mean, I need project manager, comms planner in one place, or should it be two different people? But that's what we're missing, is someone who can manage agencies, but also come up with that comms strategy. And I don't know what the answer is, to be honest. I mean, if someone has opinion, I'll get that. I'll take it.
Well,
You also need
Sally knows the thing.
I mean, obviously, anyone open for business.
But before you answer that, can I add a slight extra thing for you? Explain to the audience how you actually charge clients, because you're not doing media trading, you're not taking commissions off.
Straight fee. And then depending on the size of client, we either work on what we call a rolling scope. So we're going to do this for 3 months, and we're going to do this for 3 months, or we bugger off. But we don't hang around. If anyone's old enough to remember Naked, they sort of used to hang around and get a bit annoying. We don't hang around and we're not annoying. So that's that. What I was going to say is that you, as a comm strategist, you need to channel your inner bossy. Because bossy, your inner head girl basically needs to come out, because once you've done your comm strategist, you need to be able to say to people, great idea, not the right idea for now. Because remember, we've got a comm strategy. And your role is to do this. And that idea does not do that. So let's put that idea to one side. So you're constantly having to tussle with all the agencies, having all the ideas all the time, and go, great, brilliant, not now, not yet. But that one does the job that it's been asked to do. Because I reckon you probably get hundreds of brilliant ideas from all of your agencies, right? You just need your comm strat in place that you can go, what's the right idea for now?
But the question is this the one person who does that job, who actually managing this process, but also comes up with comm strategy?
Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of clients that are bringing comm strat in-house. So Lego do it brilliantly, BT do it brilliantly.
Well, when you say they do it brilliantly, how and why do they do it brilliantly?
They do it brilliantly. Lego especially have got, again, a very complicated setup. So timelines for product development, install, all of that. It's very difficult for an external to get their heads around. But what they will do is make sure that they've just their brief is absolutely right. They've really thought through the customer journey on the role of every single touch point. And they build the timelines in accordingly. They brief their agencies at the right time. It's a big team that they have over there. And interestingly, it sits as part of their in-house creative unit, not as their media unit.
And why is that important?
I just think it's lots of people think Comstrat should be lined up with media. In actual fact, I think there's some creativity to it as well. So, yeah.
Interesting. What about on the agency side as well? Are there any agency groups that you think do this particularly well?
I'll kick this one off. I think Essence do quite a good job at this, especially because I know they run BT, and obviously BT, you just mentioned it actually, I think it's a really interesting brand, and the way they bring not only all their audiences, because they have multiple audiences, and plus the campaign that they're running right now, where they're running completely different assets for the audiences on different platforms, I think is very well executed, but I think the comms planning behind it is really interesting to see it, just in the wording that's being used, so the creativity in terms of the assets, but also the way they're maneuvering across all the different playing fields that they're in. So yeah, so I think that's an interesting agency and brand that's doing it quite well.
I think I think in agencies, a lot depends on people who work on the business. Don't think there is an agency who do it well. I think there are teams who do it well. So I know in Omnicom, there's been quite a few teams, including a team like Daimler, has been great in collaborating on creative and media side. But it heavily depends on the team, I think on the leadership, because transparently, I also know teams across agencies that's supposed to be working together because they're part of the same group, but it's an ongoing competition for whatever reason, including leadership. Yeah, I think leadership needs to drive collaboration, that's number one. Consistent P&L needs to drive collaboration. And P&L is always separate. And that stops a lot of agencies, I think, from actually having a bit more aligned approach on servicing clients and actually having one point of view and point of contact as well for clients.
So in essence, are you saying it's the holding company model that's partly at fault here?
I think so. I think it's at fault. I believe we've been talking for 10 years about the fact that holding companies need to bring creative and media together. Yeah, well, in some cases they did in some accounts. In other cases, they didn't. But then I also think it's important to remind that every business and advertiser is structured differently. So as a result, the model that agency proposes is a reflection of what client has, often what client asks for, which doesn't get challenged enough from my point of view. I think we still have a culture of servicing and serving, rather not servicing, serving and responding rather than challenging more businesses. I'd love to be challenged more. Lee from Dentistry there with Jazz, who knows that when I was in the UK, I would ask for it. Please challenge, please ask, tell us what we can do better. Because I don't believe that one holding model is the best model for everyone. It works for Coca-Cola because they have centralized budget, well done, but it's not going to work for McDonald's, who has decentralized budgets.
Also, I'll just jump in there. I mean, back to your point around the opcos. I mean, we've seen back over the past 6 months, like all the opcos are merging. You've got Essence Mediacom that's just merged. You've got, what's the latest one? IPG with Kinesso and all these guys going in. So everyone's merging all data, creative, media, all together. Tech, exactly. Yeah. So quite interesting.
Or buying tech to bring it in.
Buying tech to bring it in as well, yeah, exactly.
But again, it's a lot of acquisitions, mergers, acquisitions, but for me, the key is how you bring those businesses together. Like with any merger and acquisition, you have obviously commercial aspects, but then you have your cultural aspects, because startup businesses moving into big global organization going to have challenges. And then 3, how you then are bringing P&Ls together and actually make sure your people collaborate, how you create processes, capabilities in place to enable them an effective collaboration to service the business.
Yeah, I think that spot on, really. I think it's how is your client set up and how do you build a team around it? Because, for example, we're in-house, but we still need very local needs. But we don't have an EMEA team. We've got a global, one house doing everything, and then local elements. And agencies are scratching their heads saying, oh, well, actually, we're not used to doing this. We're used to either proper centralized, regional or local, but this weird kind of like in-between thing, it's very complicated for them to wrap their head around.
Yeah.
And being flexible is, I think, a key.
And of course, the reality, sometimes if you're a global client, you just need to work with an agency group that has agencies in different offices
Exactly.
around the world
Exactly.
where they can talk to your regional teams.
Yeah.
Sally?
There is one thing that we've not mentioned, which is collaboration. Collaboration takes time, as I said quite earlier, and actually margins on both sides of the fence have been absolutely squashed over recent decades, right? So we've got media agencies and creative agencies not showing that much profit, right? So there needs to be a way of paying for it. So I would say to clients, if you want your agencies to collaborate, that has to be part of the scope of work. It has to be part of the fee, because otherwise agencies are simply going to look at what's the most efficient way that I can run this business, and that isn't working collaboratively.
Well, I think there is two parts to that.
Yeah.
Number one is, I'm not sure to which extent I agree with the fact that creative agencies' margins are squeezed from my point of view, but I don't have the numbers, but my feeling is that media agencies will be skewed significantly more because of just the nature of procurement,
Yeah.
and the fact that we are always talking about productivity mostly when we're running pitches, etc.
Yeah.
Number two, I do think there is actually very easy ways to try and create that collaboration, because in most of cases we are having agency evaluations. Yeah, if you work with big networks, you have annual agency evaluation or biannual, and you can have questions there around
put it in there.
collaboration between agencies that then reflective of their PREP and reflective of the bonus that they're getting. So it's not a rocket science probably, it's more the fact that we should do that probably ourselves as well, like come together as a business as well, like your brand, your media people, your BTL people, and agree that we need to prep all agencies and they need to have consistent KPIs, at least in some areas.
So what does this mean for, so we talked a lot about how an advertiser might organize their creative and media people together in different ways. But what does it mean for the actual brand? I mean, we're here at Future of Brands. In an ideal world, how do you think it's going to get brands better at doing the business of marketing? What's your prediction for what should happen versus what will happen? Sally, you're smiling.
I'll come back to ideas, really. I think that the more that we bring those two disciplines back together, the more we're looking at an idea that can make a brand famous rather than an advertising campaign. And it's you know, we're all in this for the love of ideas, right? You get thrilled when a great idea lands, and ideas mean that you can stretch it across the business. You can do all sorts of things with it. So I think that's really the brilliant thing for brands, is that if we can get back to just doing some great work that extends beyond advertising, that kind of just lands in culture, that's just talkable. Then.
But just to drill down on that, is a big idea still really important? And if so, why? I mean, we had John Hegarty doing the keynote interview last year, and he was very, defended the idea about the big idea, despite you want your brand to live across different executions. He argued very passionately for that big idea. You're nodding, Olya. That big idea being so important.
I've done his training. Probably he brainwashed me or something, but I'm very much in agreement.
Yeah, but when consumers are in different places, they're in different mindset, they're at different stages of the purchasing journey. I mean, can't you have several big ideas? Why does it have to be one?
I think it's about definition, no? Because what we mean by brand idea, yeah? So Cadbury generosity, for example, yeah? Or our inches and sustainability platform. That's kind of this is brand platform. For me, that's the big idea. It's there with you. It drives your brand impact, because your brand meaningfulness, differentiation, such are not growing in 1 year. Executions are a different story.
Campaigns are different.
Exactly, because then on the back of it, Inches has a taste campaign. Inches has actually a brand campaign that speaks about sustainability, or like plant partnerships, etc. So to me, the big idea is that platform that excites everyone, like that, but then it also has such a great anchor to come up with those executional campaigns that can stretch into different touch points. But without good idea, I don't think you can get anywhere, because your brand needs to stand for something. And actually, I think System 1 and Mark Ritson keep raving about the System 1 research, and actually I think it's incredible methodology personally. But within that methodology, they clearly say that sometimes the executions can be super simple to show people beautiful drink that makes them thirsty, that's going to drive great ROI and sales. But still, it's going to be done in a way that ladders back to your brand and what it stands for and how it looks, etc. So to me, I think the idea is there. It brings people together, even agencies, because they want to deliver something great together.
Big and small, right? It can be a small client as well as a multinational.
Yeah, because I do wonder whether maybe we, for various reasons, we overly complicate things in this industry. And sometimes doesn't your brand, your marketing strategy, your advertising, particularly if you're a big household name brand, it doesn't actually need to be that great of a big idea. You just need to be constantly reminding people that you're there. But that's not going to win a creative director any awards.
Well, actually, I don't know. I disagree with that, actually, on the sense. So your initial question before was, okay, what's the future looking like? Okay, well, I think we can all agree here that we've got AI, we've got automation from a media. I'm going to bring you back into media since that's my background. Obviously, we've got AI automation breathing down our necks. Like, everyone's like trying to figure out.
How's it breathing down your neck specifically?
In the sense that it's there, and it's right at the beginning, so it's very nascent, and everyone's trying to figure out how best to use it or how to use it, full stop, which I think is the best time to experiment and test. So to bring it back into this conversation, it's AI, the way we're using it, or the way I would like to use it is, it's going to remove a lot of the grunt work out of the system, hopefully, and so that's going to do two things. One, it's going to free up, fingers crossed, time from our media teams and creative teams. Secondly, it's going to bring a whole new skill set into the pipeline. So new skill set, new ideas that we can test, ideas that have never been tested before because we just didn't have the tech and the infrastructure to do it. So for me, my POV and my future is like, okay, leveraging all this AI, new ideas, let's stress test them. Oh, is there a better way to do it? Big or small, can do both. And we can do this at scale now. So, yeah.
Do you see AI being a big impact on future brands, the work that you do going forward?
I think it's clearly it's here to stay more than metaverse, let's be honest, because I remember that one as well. And the most buzzword and the gazillions of emails you get people asking you about it. It's here to stay because it has if you look at the evolution of technology, like in the world, everything that quickly finds practical use case becomes adopted. Metaverse, I think, had less practical use cases. AI has very clear efficiency play, productivity play. Like my point of view is, I don't think AI will never be the one to create ideas. The ideas are going to be done by humans.
Yeah.
But what AI can do is help me to take my Heineken silver idea that I've got and master assets produced by incredibly talented people and turn it into 60 opcas, adapted, localized, and translated creative across another, 20 platforms in bloody 5 minutes instead of me paying gazillions of cash and waiting for 6 months and approving those as well, on emails actually, not even on mobile. I mean, that's a whole next level, yeah? So I think that's what AI is going to do. It's going to practically probably make our life easier, as you said, to free up time for higher value tasks, which are around strategy, which are around planning, and also I hope, which we don't talk much about, if we use AI somehow to find a way to measure success better,
yes.
Because we have so many challenges with consistent measurement of media impact and creative impact on brand, on short and long-term sales, BTL, sustainability, retail, attention, God knows what else. So I think there's a huge area there that we can actually explore to see how that can be done to speed up process and connect the dots.
Sally, I'm going to give the last word to you. And by the way, we didn't plan on talking about AI. It just happened.
Always.
You and Jen, your business partner at Croft, you must be thinking about how you're using AI. You must be doing experiments.
Yeah, we are. We've actually got a meeting this afternoon, but we're already incorporating it into mundane tasks. So how do we use it to just speed up some of those things that have taken weeks previously?
Such as, can you
Slides,
say?
PowerPoint slides, yeah.
Well,
Excel.
things like competitive reviews, things like just making sure, just basic data crunching. We'll use AI for that. Yeah.
Interesting. Hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. And now we're going to have lunch. Thanks very much.